New York Giants fans, after watching a historical day of football or weekend of football in the NFL, we know that the NFC championship game will be comprised of NFC East teams, but not just any two NFC teams, East teams, but two teams that have elements on them that could have easily have been with the New York Giants. In that time today, I've heard a lot of content creators wanting to turn the page. They don't want to dwell on the past anymore. They don't want to discuss the things. But those are the same people who were on board with all of the stuff that has failed for this Giants team over the last 2 years. I have to talk about it because if I don't, I'm not being genuine. I'm Coach Gene Clemons, and I have a giant issue. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of A Giant Issue. I am Coach Gene Clemons, New York Giants on SI. That's where you get all of your New York Giants news and information. Make sure you go and check it out over there as we go full throttle into the offseason. Make sure that you are liking these podcasts. You're subscribing to the podcast. You're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you get your podcast from. Definitely thank you to all the people who have come along on this journey as we start moving towards 3,000 subscribers. I'm excited. I know you're excited about the off season. But again, we have to continue to put a bow on things. And it's not really because I want to go back to it, but because these are talkable points. This is what everyone's talking about. I want to make sure that you get where I'm coming from. And I want us to be more accountable. I want all content creators to be more accountable for what they say. I want people to say things that they mean and not just say things because they think that's what the populace wants to hear. I want people to say things that are true, not just say things that are salacious. I want people to stand by what they say. And if they get new information, say, hey, I got new information, right? But my biggest issue with a lot of the content creators who were on board with giving Daniel Jones a team-friendly contract, because that's what they called it at the time. Oh, this is going to be a steal. When you see what the market is bearing out, this is going to be a steal. But it's not, right? For all the people who said, hey, you don't bring back a 26-year-old Saquon, weathered legs, injury history. It was a good time to move on from him. Like, they're just allowed to get those takes off without any recourse. For all the guys who say, well, the safety is not a premium position, so you shouldn't pay safeties. To all the people who said, well, Julian Love can't tackle, even though his last season with the Giants, he had almost 150 tackles that year. To all the people who said Xavier McKinney was lazy and he didn't work hard, right? Even though he was the leader in takeaways on this team, even though he was a leader on the defense, somebody that other defenders, i.e. rookies like Deonte Banks, looked up to. They were okay with moving on from him. These same people who applauded Joe Schoen on giving up, right, and trading away Leonard Williams for draft capital, and they said, well, they got more for him on the way out than they gave up for him on the way in. And now, if you look at what everybody says this team needs, defensive tackle, safety, right? How can you? I digress. So all I want is for somebody who felt that way to just go, hey, I was wrong. That wasn't the way to go. It did not work out. It did not go the way that I thought it was going to go. I was wrong. But they won't. They want to put all of these asterisks by why it worked. Oh, Bobby Johnson's not a good offensive line coach. It's just that Jaden Daniels is such a good quarterback that he makes Bobby Johnson look better, right? That was the whole thing. He's not a good quarterback. He's not a good coach. He's just being made to look good because Jaden Daniels is good. Yo, you can say all that you want to. Washington picked him up in 5 minutes on the free agent on waiver. He comes in and they are in the NFC Championship game. You say whatever you want. He upgraded. He upgraded somebody. It wasn't like he went to a ready-made squad who was ready to win. Nope, they got out the mud. They were just as terrible, maybe even more terrible than the Giants were last year, right? They will say things. They will say things that don't make sense, like, oh, well, it's because Love and Xavier McKinney, they only got good once they left the Giants. No, that's not true. They were good here, and both of them were young enough to where you pay them because their careers are ascending, not descending, right? But put the blame everywhere but where it should be. People were super excited, myself included, about Bobby Okereke being the anchor and the linchpin of this defense, being the leader of this defense. What changed from 2023 to 2024? Same Bobby Okereke, different defense. Yet everyone who was like, oh, well, this is a great move. He was able to stop the run with Tennessee. He should improve the run game. Now it's, oh, he needs his people. He needs his style. He needs to bring in his pieces. Any defensive coordinator who cannot go to the highest level of football and adjust a scheme to the personnel that they have, they're not a good coach. They're not a great coach. I won't even say good. They're not a great coach. Because great coaches know how to maneuver, transform, transmogrify the personnel that they have into what they need. And yet, I don't hear anyone out here going, I was wrong. My bad. So, let me be the first to do it. Hey, I said that I didn't think that Jermaine Illuminor was going to be that big of an upgrade. I was wrong. He was really, really good this year. He really, really solidified that right tackle position and showed position flexibility, being able to go over to left tackle. I thought that the return or Illuminor might be something very similar to what we saw out of Neal last year. It wasn't. He was better, right? He was better. I'm not out here telling you that he was an all-pro, but he was better, clearly. And we know that he has the position flexibility now to play right tackle, right guard, and left tackle because they brought him in to play a right guard. So I was wrong on that. I didn't think that Van Roten would be a guy who could hold up there. Now, I still don't think he was that great, but his position flexibility, being able to play guard and play center, right, giving you that flexibility of those two, those are great moves. And in Van Roten's case, you got him for little to nothing, right? So I'm looking at it and going, those are wins for the Giants. This offensive line that had 3 new starters on it played way better than the offensive line last year. Jake Cubis, the rookie left guard from North Dakota State, looks like somebody who could elevate to a starting level. Or if nothing else, he can be a swing guard who is a quality backup. But the wild card, right? The wild card is a healthy Evan Neal, because now Evan Neal gets to go into this offseason. He gets to go into this offseason healthy so that he can work on his game, right? From health and not from recovering from injury. So I am excited about what this offensive line can be going forward. I was wrong. I thought it would be Same old, same old. I feel like they have the pieces in place and they don't need to go out and spend money on the offensive line this offseason because they have the pieces there. Go ahead, pull the trigger, move Neal to guard, right? Move Neal to guard. That puts Van Roten possibly on the bench. And now he's your backup center guard. Neal is your starting guard. Kubis is your backup guard. And then go out and find a low price tackle to bring in or keep the guys that you've been working with in that case. That is how you build and structure from within. I didn't think they had it. They have it. Everybody's under contract. I heard or I read somewhere, I think it was from Patricia Traynor, and shout out to PT. She said that Evan Neal would be a $17 million cap hit. And she wouldn't be surprised if they don't pick that up. And as far as on his option year. And I'm like, why would they need to pick it up? If that's me, with Kayvon Thibodeau and with him, I go ahead and redo deals now, right? Because both of them are super young, 23 years old. They have all of their career in front of them. And if nothing else, if I resign them now, I'm getting them at a discount because if they have explosion seasons in their fourth year, which is 100% possible because Kayvon Thibodeau wasn't healthy this year and Evan Neal wasn't healthy coming into the year, and they refused to move him somewhere else to let him play. So both of those guys could have resurgent years, and now all of a sudden they cost a premium. You could get them locked up for a 4-year extension right now, and now you have them through to 27. 5-year extension to 28, where they're still at the peak of their prime. And now if they're not there, then guess what? That's a good time to move on. But I would look to lock those guys up and extend them now. But I was wrong when I said that I didn't think Jermaine Illuminor would be that big of an upgrade. See how that's done? We can just admit when we're wrong, right? So other people need to admit it instead of trying to kick the can down or, try to say that people are bullying them or try to act as if, Twitter or X or all the other places, chat groups, Discords, instead of trying to say that they're all negative, they're negative because the people who were on one side never wanted to admit that they were wrong. I had people, content creators telling me that I didn't understand roster construction, right? I had content creators like Schneider telling me I didn't understand roster construction because I said there is no way I'm paying Daniel Jones. I'm paying the best players on my team. But I didn't understand roster construction because you don't pay a running back that's 26 and you don't pay a safety. You don't like what they call luxury positions, right? But who cares who you pay and how much you pay them if you ultimately have success? Nobody would care that you paid Daniel Jones $40+ million if it worked out, but it never worked out. It wasn't like, well, he had a good first season, then that second season it fell apart. No, he was bad. It would be different if you traded away Leonard Williams and the replacements that you brought in for him, Nacho and the young boys, Jordan Riley, all of those guys, Elijah Cheatham, like if they filled in and they were just as good, if they had just as big of an impact, then I can understand. I can understand. Nobody's going to care that you got rid of Leonard Williams. But when you get rid of Love and you get rid of McKinney, and now the secondary is a problem, we're going to point it out. It's not crying over spilled milk. It is acknowledging that there was mistakes, and so many of you were on board with making the mistake. And now instead of just saying, yo, I was wrong, you want to run and hide behind, oh, well, let's move. Let's move on. Let's think about the next year. We can't keep, we're right in it. We're watching the history unfold in front of us. We're watching the history unfold in front of us. You want to know what the narrative is now? Oh, Saquon Barkley would have never rushed for 2,000 yards with the Giants. Why? Why? If you have Saquon Barkley but not Daniel Jones, then you have enough money to build out the offensive line and do exactly what you did this past year when you brought in 3 dudes. Only you probably could have brought in 3 better dudes because you would have had more money because you didn't have the Daniel Jones contract looming over your head, right? So you bring in those guys to bolster the offensive line, right? You bring in those guys to bolster the offensive line. You've got a bridge quarterback, right? You still have Malik Neighbors. Tell me why, if you're looking at Tyrone Tracy, average 4.4 yards per carry behind this revamped Giants offensive line. Tell me why Saquon Barkley, who is much better than Tyrone Tracy, stop disrespecting him just because he went to Philadelphia. He's way better than Tyrone Tracy. He's been playing a position longer. He's more instinctual. He's more powerful. What are we doing? If you put him behind that offensive line in the exact same disastrous season, he's probably getting what? 1,700 yards? 1,800 yards? He's going to average 5 yards a carry, maybe not 4.4. I mean, maybe not, close to 6, but he's going to average close to 5 yards a carry. We see when all of you guys said, because there were think pieces being done on it 2 years ago, where people were like, Saquon Barkley doesn't have the bursts that he used to have. And they were citing times when he got into the open field and was not able to score a touchdown. And nobody mentioned the fact that he was injured at those times, and lower leg injuries are going to affect your ability to get out. But when healthy and he gets a chance to hit that turbo boost button, you saw this year, he's still him. Then people tried to diminish what he does by saying, oh, well, all he is he'll have a big run at the beginning of the game. He won't do anything. And then in the fourth quarter, when it's meaningless, he'll rush for another big game. Ladies and gentlemen, football works this way. If you are a defensive end, it doesn't matter when you get the sack. It just matters that you have the sack. You want to know how many useless sacks J.J. Watt has? You want to know how many useless sacks T.J. Watt has? You want to know how many useless sacks? Ooh, be careful. Your sack all-time sack leader has? His sack versus Brett Favre, where Brett Favre essentially just saw him coming and then just stood there and let him tackle him, was the all-time, hey, here's a free sack. Nobody puts the asterisk next to his name. You want to know why? Because the stat is the stat. And wouldn't you love to have somebody at the end of the game where when you're up by 6, they're able to put the game-clinching touchdown on the board because they break for a 50-yarder that puts the game into a 2-score situation? They made it seem as if it was something bad that he was able to break for a long run at the beginning of the game and then have 20 carries and break for a long run at the end of the game. I would like for you, any one of you out there as fans, I would like for you to just sprint 20 times. The first time, I want you to sprint for 65 yards, as fast as you can. Then I want you 22 times to sprint for 10, 12, 15 yards, 5 yards. And then at the end, I want you to sprint for 60 more yards and tell me that 60-yarder you do at the end is just as fast as that 60-yarder at the beginning. But guess what it is for Saquon? It's that. Why? Because he's healthy and he's protected. And he would have been protected in this Giants offensive line with this bolstered offensive line with 3 new dudes on the offensive line with Carmen Brasillo, who you guys all swear by and say he's done such a great job of improving an offensive line, when in reality, it's 3 new dudes. 3 new dudes, an all-pro on the left, and a guy at center who's still struggling with power rushes. Where is the improvement? The improvement is in the 3, right? So I put Saquon Barkley behind that line. He's going to have more success. Period. End. Why can't he rush for 2,000 yards with the Giants if the Giants were dedicated to being a running team? But they were not. You want to know what they wanted to do? They didn't want their $40 million quarterback turn around and handing it off to a $12 million running back. They wanted their $40 million quarterback to turn around and hand it off to a late round pick that was costing pennies on the dollars in the salary cap. And they got what they wanted, and that ish didn't work. So just say you're wrong. Just say, hey, I was wrong. I thought Saquon wasn't the move to make, but I was wrong. I said that we should move on from Saquon, but I was wrong. But you won't, because pride and ego get in the way. It's, oh, a premium team took a premium player, a luxury team took a luxury player, and that's why he's having success. Yo, you guys really don't think Saquon Barkley would have had some semblance of success wherever he went? Wherever he went, he was going to be good. Why? Because he's a generational talent. Bijan Robinson is down there with Kirk Cousins killing it. Bijan Robinson is a Saquon Barkley clone. Bijan Robinson is Saquon Barkley. It's the same player. They're the same type of player. They do the same type of stuff. If Bijan Robinson could kill in Atlanta, you don't think that Saquon Barkley could? Imagine putting Barkley in Tampa Bay. That offensive line isn't as good as the Eagles. He would kill down there. Imagine putting Saquon Barkley in LA at either team. He would murder in those offenses. Imagine putting Saquon Barkley in Buffalo. Imagine Saquon Barkley in Baltimore. Because quiet as it's kept, Derrick Henry isn't even the style of running back that fits Lamar Jackson the best. Saquon Barkley is. Imagine Saquon Barkley if he had decided that he was just going to take a little bit of money and go to Kansas City. Y'all would say that Kansas City was cheating and that the NFL was trying to load Kansas City so that they could have a three-peat. Name a team where Saquon Barkley doesn't make things better, and I will call you a liar. I will 100% call you a liar. Tell me a team that has an option better than Saquon Barkley, and I'm going to call you a liar. Hey, and I apologize about the dogs and the children. You know, life's happening out here. It's Martin Luther King Day. And shout out to everybody out there celebrating Martin Luther King Day. Shout out to a peaceful transference of power, which is what it should always be in this country. Not like what we saw 4 years ago. Should always be a peaceful transference of power, right? And again, shout out to Martin Luther King, his family, his legacy, and everything that's going on. I just look at these things and go, we can admit when we're wrong, right? We can admit when it's not the thing. I was skeptical about Drew Phillips' pick. I was wrong. Drew Phillips is a great pick. Going to be a great nickelback. All of the deficiencies he has, they can all get cleaned up. But you know what he does that I like? He's physical. He's aggressive. If you don't have a physical, aggressive nickelback, then you don't have a nickelback. So I was wrong. Right? I was wrong. I thought Cordell Flott moving back outside might actually be a good thing. And once he got healthy, guess what? It was. He wasn't that bad. This team is not as far away as everybody thinks it is, but we can't talk out of both sides of our mouths. We can't say, oh, we're going to move forward and then, oh, we're going to like discredit the people that we have. That's not how it works. Move forward. Okay. We won't talk about the Daniel Jones anymore. We won't talk about Saquon Barkley anymore unless he wins the championship, right? Well, we're going to talk about him for the next couple of weeks, right? But after that, we'll be gone. We won't talk about the people who are no longer here. But then after that, we need to start identifying the positives about the people who are going to be here and constructing our this roster and this team to be able to compete in 2025. Because Washington showed you don't need to wait 4 years to be able to get it popping, right? You don't have to wait. You just need to put the right pieces in the right places. And once you do that, everything takes off. It's exciting times out there. It's been a fantastic playoffs. It's going to be a fantastic championship weekend. I look forward to being with you guys all week because there's a lot to talk about. In Big Blue Nation. New York Giants on SI. Make sure that you go there to get all of your New York Giants news and information. You'll start seeing some stuff pop up from me on there again as I get back into my writing bag on the off season. Go over there and see what everybody's writing about, what everyone's talking about. Obviously, stay over here, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you're locked in with us. Until next time, I'm Coach Gene Clemons, and I have a giant issue.